Hello. Good morning. Om. Namaste. Many blessings and much love to you today. I am Jessica Amos. I am a mindfulness teacher, a punk rocker, a relationship coach, and the founder of Stay With Yourself, the practice of being who you are, where you are. And I'm here today to talk about why having boundaries is one of the most loving things you can do for yourself and for others. It's one of the most loving things that I have done for myself. And it's also one of the hardest things I've done, as well as a life practice that continues to be something I have to do on an almost daily basis. So my boundaries journey really started about 14 years ago when I had my first child, and I had to consider some of the dynamics in my family system that I didn't want my children to be a part of. And that primarily had to do with the step parent I grew up with. I grew up in a home that was violent, verbally aggressive. There was a lot of anger, and I grew up very, very scared and fearful. Developed some codependent tendencies, some tendencies like I talked about in a previous video for people pleasing, and just learning to lie in order to survive and do what I had to do. So when I had my first baby, my first child, I realized, gosh, I don't know if this is, it was fine for me. It was fine for me. It was just kind of what I knew is how what I knew about life and living. But once I had my own baby, I realized maybe I wanted something different for her. So I started exploring some of the things I learned and maybe some things that I needed to change. And that led me to, like I said, my path with learning to practice boundaries. And it is a practice. It is not anything that I even feel to this day that I have perfected. But the way it unfolded for me was in order to clear space, in order to give myself room to not be in a constant state of fear and anxiety, in order to get the voice of my step parent and some of the messaging out of my mind, I needed to actually cut off communication with that person. And it was very painful. It was very hard. It was terrifying. I know it took, looking back, I realized how much courage it took. It was hard on the whole family. And I think to this day, there's some difficulty there, absolutely. But this is what I learned. By setting this boundary, I got to practice a lot of things. I got to practice asking for what I wanted and needed. I got to practice being honest about what I wanted and needed. I got to practice looking into what I believe and what I don't believe, what works for me, what doesn't work for me. I got to practice, I went to groups on codependency and learning how to not look to approval outside myself for who I was. I really, really learned, as a lot of us do growing up, to look to other people for our well-being and for whether or not we're okay. And when you have people in your life that are not okay with themselves, who don't love or like themselves very much, it's very difficult for them to be a reflection back to you of your likability and your lovability. So I really had to start recognizing that I was lovable and I was enough just as I was, despite some of the messaging that I received. So to me, boundaries are one of the most loving things that you can bring into your relationship, because instead of putting the onus and the responsibility on other people to make you happy and be responsible for you, you are now responsible for yourself. It is your ticket to releasing resentment, to releasing blame, and to releasing victimhood, because you realize that you are in charge of your own garden. One of the best visual pictures that I've been given about boundaries was from Randy Buckley. She's an excellent person who teaches about boundaries. I recommend her to everybody. And she said, now imagine you have a garden, and there's like a picket fence around that garden with a gate in it. And your garden has like various layers and levels to it. So you have to decide what the base level is on someone, like the minimum that someone must exemplify in order to enter your garden and come through the gate. And mine was respect. You must be a respectful person before you can enter my gate and even come into my garden, right? And then you need to show that you have capacity for empathy, right? You have to, and then at the center of my garden, I think, is maybe love or something. I can't quite remember what I came up with when I did that, but it's a really beautiful picture. And I like to take it a step further of, yes, you have this boundary garden, but then what's at the back of the garden? The house, right? Where you have the steps leading up to a porch, leading up to a front door, into an entryway, and then you have a living room and a kitchen and a bedroom. And what is the most intimate part of the home, right? Is it your kitchen? Is it your bedroom? So there are so many layers to allowing people in. And I don't mean this as like boundaries are to, they're not, it's not a fortress. It's not a prison. You aren't guarding yourself from the outside world. I like to think of this low white picket fence with a gate in it, and you are the keeper of that. And if you are spending your time tending to other people's gardens and not your own, you might have a garden that's in major disrepair. So for the last 14 years, I've been on this journey of really tending to my garden. And what it has brought about is a deep level of compassion, a deep level of forgiveness for myself, compassion and forgiveness for self, as well as for my step-parent, who I know is absolutely doing the very best job he knew how. And I am full of love and gratitude for all that I've been given and all that I've learned, and also the opportunity that I've been given through that struggle and through all the fear and all the anxiety and all the depression and all the self-hate and all the things that I have I don't know, for lack of a better term, suffered from over the years, that now I'm in a place where I realize I'm fully responsible for my life. There is no blame. There's nobody's fault if I make bad choices, or if I'm unhappy, or if I'm resentful, or if I'm full of blame. That is my choice. And usually if I'm resentful, it's because I am not honoring my own boundaries. If I'm blaming other people for not doing what I want, it's usually because I'm not taking care of me. So I really feel, and I've experienced this in my life with other people who practice healthy and compassionate boundaries, that boundaries actually create safety within a relationship, so that we can show up and we know the parameters, and we know that we are not responsible for anyone and no one is responsible for us. And that creates so much safety and so much freedom in our relationships. So I don't know if you have questions, if you want to share some of your own journey with boundaries and what that means to you, and some of the ways in which you've had to maybe practice these sorts of things, or anything at all, really. I would love for you to share and let me know your thoughts. But I'm so grateful to be here with you today. I'm so grateful to be practicing loving, compassionate boundaries, so that we can keep our hearts open and not guarded. So I hope you're having an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. May you stay with yourself today and always.